Today we're going to be talking about multiples and factors. The multiple of a number is a whole number that can be divided by another whole number without a remainder. A factor is a whole number we multiply with another whole number to get a product, which ends up being our third whole number. In order to not get these two mixed up, one of the things that I remind myself, just a little mnemonic device, is multiples generally represent more or greater than the number, m and m, and factors generally represent fewer than the number. And that just helps me keep the two from getting mixed up. So my first task is to list the first 8 multiples of 4. Excuse me, when we're listing the multiples, we start out with the very first multiple, which would be that number times 1. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 5 is 20. And 4 times 6 is 24. I have listed 6 terms, and I need to go to 8. 4 times 7 is 28. 4 times 8 is 32. And the multiples continue on, but I've listed the first 8. Our next task is to list the first 8 multiples of 10. So we're going to repeat the procedure. 10 times 1 is 10, 10 times 2 is 20, and so on, until we get to the first 8 multiples of 10. 10 times 8, which is 80. And the multiples do continue, but we've been asked to only list the first 8. We have now successfully listed the first 8 multiples of 4 and the first 8 multiples of 10. So practice using the language. The multiples of 4 are 4, 8, 12, 16, and so on. The multiples of 10 are 10, 20, 30, and so on. We'll then start talking about common multiples between numbers. And when something is in common, it means they are the same. So what are the common multiples that we've listed between 4 and 10? So let's take a look. If I look at the multiples of 4, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, the first multiple that it has in common with 10 is 20. So I circle it. The language that I use is 20 is a common multiple of 4 and 10. Are there any other common multiples that have been listed? 24, 28, 32? No. The only common multiple that I've shown is 20. I could continue on and there would be more common multiples. What is the least common multiple between 4 and 10? So the least common multiple we also know commonly in mathematics as capital L, capital C, capital M. The least common multiple between 4 and 10 is the smallest number that is a multiple that they both have in common. And 20 is the least common multiple. So when I list the common multiples of 4 and 10, please just note here, there is more than just 20, we just haven't listed them. Whereas the least common multiple, there's only one. It is the number that represents the least multiple that they have in common. Now we're going to think a little bit about factors. Whole numbers we multiply to get other whole numbers are called factors. So if we were to list the factors of the number 20, it's a little bit like working backwards when you're factoring a number. The factors of 20 are all of the numbers that you multiply to get that number. So one of the tricks that I use is the rainbow trick. So if I'm going to list the factors of 20, I'm going to start with my least factor, the smallest number that goes evenly into 20, which is the number 1. And I'm going to partner it with its pair, 1 times 20. Then I go to my next factor, 2. Does 2 go evenly into 20? Yes, it does. 10 times. How about the number 3? Is 3 a factor of 20? Can you divide 20 by 3 evenly? No, you cannot. But 4 works. 4 times 5 6, nope. 7, nope. 8, and I can use my multiplication chart to help me with this. 9, nope. 10, now 10 works, but I've already listed 10. So once I list a factor that I've already listed, then I know I have them all, and all I have to do is make my organized list. So I start with my least factor, 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20. And the language that we use is the factors of 20 are 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20. So the rainbow trick is when you take your factor pairs and you spread them out. So you start with the least one, 1, and jump over to the side and make 20 and attach them. And then you go to the next factor, 2 times 10, and you attach them. 4 times 5, and you attach them. And once you get to the middle, you know you've also got all the factors listed. Let's try that with the factors of 15. So if I'm listing the factors of 15, I know that 1 and 15 is a factor pair. 2 does not go evenly into 15. 3, yes, 3 goes evenly into 15. 3 times 5. 4 does not, and now we're at the middle, so we know we've listed all of our factors. If I wanted to neaten it up just a little bit and use the proper language, I would say the factors of 15 are 1, 3, 5, and 15. So then we get to the common factors. There's that word common again. Common means the same. So I've taken the factors of 20 and the factors of 15 and transferred them onto this new slide. Now we're also going to list the factors of 30. So if I use my rainbow strategy, I know 1 is a factor of every number, so 1 times 30. 2, 30 is even, so I know 2 goes into 30 15 times. 3 times 10 is also 30. 4 does not go evenly into 30. I know 4 times 7 is 28, so it can't go into 30. 5 times 6 is 30, and I've gotten to the middle, so I know I've listed all my factors. So now that I've listed the factors of 30, 20, and 15, I am wondering what the common factors of 30 and 20 are. The common factors of 30 and 20, if I look at 30 and I look at 20, which factors are the same? 1, 2, not 4, 5, 10, and I think I've got them all. So the common factors of 30 and 20 are 1, 2, 5, and 10. That's the language that we use. The common factors between 20 and 15 are 1, not 2, not 4, but 5, and not 15. So the common factors between 20 and 15 are 1 and 5. How about the common factors between 30, 20, and 15? So let's try this. Which factors do all three numbers have in common? They all have a factor of 1. They do not all have a factor of 2. They do not all have a factor of 3. They do not all have a factor of 4. But they do all have a factor of 5. And not 15, so I've covered them all. So the common factors between 30, 20, and 15 are 1 and 5. So one of the common terms that we use in math is greatest common factor. And the greatest common factor is the greatest, the biggest factor that numbers have in common. The greatest common factor between 30 and 20, the greatest common factor between 30 and 20 is 10. That is the largest number that goes into them evenly. The greatest common factor between 20 and 15 is 5. And the greatest common factor between 30, 20, and 15 is also 5. It is the greatest factor that goes evenly into all three numbers. Now, the least common factor is an interesting one because this really isn't something that we talk about, and there is a logical reason. So what I want you to do is I want you to tell me the least common factor between 20 and 15. Think about that for a second. So take a look at the factors. What is the least common factor between these three numbers? Hopefully, you recognized that the least common factor between 20 and 15 is 1. Between 15 and 30 is also 1. Between 15, 20, and 30, it's 1. If you think about the least common factor between any two numbers, it will always lead to the number 1. Well, I hope that helps you better understand multiples and factors.